Hello everyone, I am varyables.avi and I'm going to be teaching you about arrays in C++. Now, my last C++ video was just basically a revisiting and a recapping of every single thing that I have taught you in C++. But now we're going to start continuing into the more advanced stuff, and well, here we go, and this is basically our start. Now, arrays. Until now, you have been learning about integers, let's just say int, and you have been learning about putting one single value into that single if statement. Well, that is all fun, but now we're going to learn about variables that you can put multiple values into. Now, do me a favor for a second. Picture a checkerboard or a chessboard, whatever you play. Notice that there are 64 squares, and it is 8 by 8. It is your example of an array. It is basically one container that stores multiple pieces of data in different places. And the pieces of data, which is so great, is that the pieces of data don't interfere with each other. Now, you can always, if you're an advanced programmer, you can always jam it all into one variable, but arrays are so much easier. Now, to make an array, it's basically the same thing as making a variable. Instead, you're going to be putting parameters. Now, these we have never used before. Square brackets, not squiggly brackets, not parentheses, not quotes, not single quotes, square brackets. Easy enough to remember. And we put two square brackets, and in between those, we put how many squares we want. Now, that is all fun and games and simple. But let's just start out by declaring an 8 by 8 array. Basically, a checkerboard. Now, as you can see, there are two different little boxes which contain numbers, separate numbers. That means there will be two dimensions, one dimension for each little box, that contains a certain parameter. That means how much of that one dimension we want. Right now, our two dimensions are 8 and 8, which means the array will be 8 by 8. Easy enough to understand. But there is a catch. Something very important you must know. I'm just going to get rid of this second 8 for now. There's something very important, bad pun, very important you must know about arrays. You will never do this. Equals 0. Why will you never do this? Well, you never do this because you might say, well, Mr. varyables.avi, you declared this variable to be 8 squares long. Why would you not be able to put anything into the last square? Because there is no last square, my friend. Variables and C++ are all complicated, so instead of saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with variables, instead of thinking that this is the first square of the array, it starts at 0 and it goes all the way to 7. Now, that's really tricky, kind of difficult to understand. And remember that if you declare the array to be 8 squares long, and the maximum square you will be able to put stuff into is 7. But really, it's more accurate because there are 8 squares in the array with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 8. Now, once you get to understanding that, arrays are just a whole lot easier. Now, I'm going to start by having a little bit of fun with this array. I'm going to be making a do while loop, which you learned about. And I'm going to be making a variable called index. Index. And I'm going to be, of course, like most do while loops, increasing index by 1 at the end and checking if index is less than 8. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to declare, I'm going to allow the user to input every single square of the array. Now, by doing that, we will not be doing this. No, that is a no-no. That is a no-no, because unless there is some function that you pass an array, the name of an array to, this is basically saying the entire array, and C++ somehow doesn't like that. You need to say take each individual square of the array, put each individual square of the array, and notate them separately. That might sound a little bit confusing. Basically, you need to say which square of the array you're dealing with. Now, I'm going to be saying vary and then index. Index, as you know, increases by 1 until it is 8 or more than 8, which basically means it will continuously allow the user to type in a new number, which it will put into vary, until the last square of the array is full. Now I'm going to be putting cout, and I'm going to be displaying the array. Looks pretty good, doesn't it? Well, I'm afraid it's not quite yet. First of all, I spelled very wrong, and second of all, this will still not work. You cannot put just vary without this junk. No, you need to put decide what square in the array you're displaying, as always. Now, that is one of the disadvantages of arrays, but it is also one of the advantages, because knowing that, you can put a variable in here. Yeah, it's very interesting. Now, I'm going to be having a do. I'm going to make another do while loop. Let's see, do while. I shall reset index to 0, which I forgot to do over here. Index equals 0. 0. Index plus plus. Index, let's see, less than 8. Yeah, get away. And of course, we're also going to be putting cout vary. Now that seems pretty simple. Basically, what I'm doing here is I'm saying, okay, allow the user to type in every single square of the array, and then display every single square of the array. But I'm not going to be ending the line. I'm simply going to be putting a comma inside of between every number. So it will all display all of the numbers onto one big line. Here we go. Now it's allowing us to type up each square in the array. We'll just put 1, that, 90, 100, 35. This might seem tedious, but okay, here we go. Now, remember, we did not end the line, so we'll just put the press any key to continue on the same line as the cout, which is normal. Now, it displays every single square, every single value that are loaded into the squares of the array, which is pretty cool. Now, arrays might seem like a kind of a simple thing now. You might just say, well, why can't you just make a bunch of variables? Well, in the end, in the more advanced programs, trust me, it'll be very worth it to know what you're talking about when you're dealing with arrays. So arrays are a little bit tricky and kind of confusing, so please do take your time to remember that. And that's basically all I need to tell you. So be sure to subscribe to Beryllium 7. Live long and prosper, and thank you.